then it changed, council changed, and administration changed, and said it's inadequate because they're too small. I think that's where we're at now. I haven't heard from our officials. So we're saying now that the tank was too small. Why is it too small? Have we gained 500 more residences? The residences are about the same. That's up there for you to grab. What's on what?
Well, you asked, there was a couple of things about, I guess, water.
Our net reserves.
650 some odd thousand in the
We
reserve.
take money out, we put money in as we get the money from the tax collection agencies, as we get it from other sources, but we are net holding even on our reserve. We are not deficit
Okay,
financing.
you all remember this. You have some emails. I'll send out the last report.
It was there last week. Last
Okay,
week
what was
there was
the
a
amount?
complete
I think
fiscal.
we need to stay on track.
I want to hear what you
If I could just circle back, I've got two more bullet points this fellow asked me a while back. One, we just addressed the water, I think we're still discussing that. Other was taxes, and there's some marketable things about our community. Jerome mentioned that, you know, it's a proud community. I used to, it was my dream to live here in the home that we moved into. It's a blessing, and I'm happy to live in such a small community where we can really govern ourselves. So far as, the tax rate, in my opinion, there's some marketable things about the pride that this community takes in itself. We just mentioned that a lot of these homes are gone and won't come back. A lot of the homes, us included, we're still digging out. I believe we could set some standards, and if we don't provide the service, for instance, animal control off the top of my head, we can still at least assist our residents and citizens in improving some of those areas. Whatever it might be. When we moved into our house, there was a renter there. There were rats and fleas, and you can imagine, it used to be such a beautiful home with full-time yard and, gardeners and everything, and it was so lovely. And we're trying to get back to that. If we could just, work with our citizens, work with the renters, whatever, make sure that at least they're aware that we're trying to improve, whether it's lawn care or what. I think that the city could be more involved in guiding, educating some of the citizens, some of the new residents, in order to better beautify some of the properties. And again, take advantage of some of the marketable aspects, governing ourselves, partnering with whatever it might be, realtors, to get the word out there, to make Shore Acres a more desirable place to be. If we take some time to do that, like I said, get our name out there, start partnering with some just as an example, start partnering with some realtors, encouraging people to live here, better exploiting the benefits of living in our small community, so close to the water, so close to the yacht club. Then I think, we could try and get our tax dollars or our valuations going in the right direction, and rather than increasing taxes, increasing our valuation of our homes, our towns, our houses, that'll also help to benefit. I know it's not right around the corner, but if we got it going in that right direction, I know that they just built a house last year directly across the street from me. They're building another hill next door to me, so that's encouraging to me. The last thing was the flood, and we don't want to talk about that. The home that I lived in has been flooded 4 times. I didn't live here then. I was an evacuee from Hurricane Katrina, and I had the pleasure of dealing with FEMA at that time. And those guys, I think Jerome, Mr. McCown touched on this as well. The best thing is just preparedness. And I didn't do a whole lot of research, but I think Michelle worked with FEMA, making sure that those relationships are tight, being aware of just having an action plan, I guess, and preparing for the worst. So I don't want to admit that if another flood does hit, we're just bankrupt and we're out of here. Do whatever we can if it's not so severe, to where we have an action plan to bounce back.
When I moved here, we were homeless. We're becoming a rental community. I've lived here 22 years. I've seen the complexity after the hurricane. This is the same story. This is not the same
I can
story.
attest to that just from my situation and having followed these winters.
Okay, so if you say that we are still, we're just have money to re-enter the to sustain and making the band-aid on really knee repair, permanent, but if that's truly only one day, then, I mean, other than being nice and everything's coming out, trying to get them in our neighborhood, what are we going to do between now and what's going to happen now? I mean, we need something now. Here's that. Things aren't, I don't even know where all it's broken, but obviously it's, we don't have a hydrant, we don't have a pipe. These are things that are going to hold forever. So where is this money going to come from if we don't?
And that's my point, is that we have to partner when we can with that precinct 2. So we have a good relationship, because in fact our commissioner lives here in Short Acre. That is the chance he sees virtually every day how this community is, and that's how our liaison is with him. But we are depending upon revenues from the county then being spent here. That's a good thing that we've been able to do that. It's not something the previous commissioner was very reluctant to do that per se. Secondly, for example, last year, everybody in the state got their vote for Proposition 6, the water bond, water money. Okay, we don't know yet, because these documents haven't come out of the state, but when you have leaky water pipes, there's a water conservation issue. There's a possibility that if we get that guidance, and we can put together a proposal for that, we might be able to see that money. I will say, that's money has to be paid back. We get it interest-free from them, but we still need to they're going to have a contract with us on how we're going to pay it back. So first we have to qualify. We're going up against a lot of places around the state who want to build big reservoirs, spend big sums of money, big engineering firms behind them trying to get that money. We're just a little pipsqueak, but we have to look at those opportunities. We have to look at grants, for example, for the Houston Galveston Area Council, which is a regional consortium of the various governments, to see what opportunities there. We're not going to be rushing out. I don't think you're going to have anybody who's going to say here that if we want it, the way we're going to do it is to raise tax rates. You're just not going to hear that from anybody here. What we are going to say is, what is it we need to do? What are the time frames that some of these things need to be done? And what are the various alternatives for financing it? And what are the citizens going to go with? Nobody is going to unilaterally from the council or the mayor do any of these things.
Are we in the same position we were last year this time?
You're darn right. We run on, as I said earlier, we run on virtually a custodial basis. The infrastructure in place to keep it functioning. That's where our revenues and our expenditures match up. That's where we are, it's reality.
Then we're saying, let's partner with these people. So wasn't that all of this the same thing last year? So when are we gonna start doing this?
We've become a welfare dependent.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's just, if you want to be raw about it, it's like, it's a welfare thing. Let the county take care of this, because we're not able to fix it ourselves without raising all of your taxes to keep it more.
I mean, isn't that really where we are now? We're gonna have to, I mean, I don't.
Well, our appraisal values have went up, so we have more revenue coming in from that, which would,
As I articulated earlier, to the extent that we have these lots that are out there built upon with new, arguably, revenue, what I'll call revenue plus, that is our net service to them costs less than what we get from the taxes. That's the way our taxes grow. On an assessed basis, our assessments grow at roughly 3 to 5% a year overall, the entire community. Now, when the Harris County Appraisal District hits you up for a 10%, well, it doesn't look like 3 to 5%. But overall, remember, we've had some that have gone down because of the results of the Hurricane Ike. When you take a home that, let's say, it's a $150,000 property, and you wipe a home off of that, you now just have a flat piece of land, and that's not going to be taxed. We still got a lot of those lots around. I own one. I bought it from my neighbor to help them out of their financial situation. Okay? We have a lot of those lots in this community still. So those lots, we're not providing any services to them, but we're not generating much in the way of revenues either. So it's a struggle, it's a balancing act, and nothing, I'm going to say this, nothing moves fast. The thing that moves the fastest is when we partner up with other folks. Those don't happen overnight. Those develop through relationships and through people understanding what it is our community, their constituents, we are constituents of the county, we are constituents of the school district, we are constituents of the city. To the extent that we can take advantage of these partnering opportunities we have, we will need to continue to do it. It's not it's something we have to do because our base for revenues grows at such a low rate. We do not have big box retail. You spend your tax money outside, you spend your money outside the school because we don't have the means of spending it here. We don't get a return, but a small fraction of those sales taxes that we generate statewide. This is the way this goes.
What do you think that of? What's your input?
My thought on it is, especially as a tax taxes, this sort of separate issues, we do need to look at what our expectations are. I think one thing is the exemptions, tax exemption of that purposes. That would mean that city taxes, other cities have higher exemptions, and we need to take care of the people that already live, so that, folks can fulfill that. Yes, we do need to make our city more attractive to people that move to it. And again, we're back to the same thing. What's the first thing most young people look at when they look at this? And they're doing research on this. They look at our website. And our website is dysfunctional. I would say that it accurately reflects our city. That needs to get fixed. And I really agree that if we can fix those issues just right up front, because those are easy fixes. Those are the easy things first, and then we do need to get partner with builders, make it easy for builders to build. That is the most critical point, and make it attractive for people who want to build. Then we'll have more houses. We don't need to raise taxes on individuals. We'll just have more people paying for it. And that's the solution.
If I may interject for just a moment, that contributes to my point as well. I'll simplify and clarify about the rainbows philosophy. I guess to put it simply, it's just, it would be more beneficial to have, homes standing than lots, and that would generate more taxes.
Is there any way to be any kind of commercial, anything around here? Or is that,
It's our city, though, not the
gotta
city.
change,
It would
gotta change.
change the city.
You gotta change.
But where are we gonna put it?
Okay, there is,
We don't have the land.
there is one property, part of it which is in the city. We split the former elementary school site. 1/3 of it is within City of Shore Acres, 2/3 of it are in LaPorte. But,
Well,
let me finish. That's the only land that's available, it's not for houses specifically. Well, the school district has said, we're not interested in selling this for anything right now. Okay, that's their position, and I respect it. But when you look at that, and you say, what did you do with that? Well, you gotta ask somebody who's interested in doing something commercial first. Say, here's the piece of property, what would you do with it as a money-making enterprise? And it's not very good, because it doesn't have exposure, it's just the houses around it, you know, and so there's nothing else in the city that's available for commercial. So we are, like I said, limited sales tax from the yacht club, we get some state highway funds, which can only be spent on roads, can't be sluiced around elsewhere in the budget. We get a small share of sales tax. So we are very revenue constrained compared to a lot of other communities. That's why the issue, in my mind, of partnership is what we need to work towards, and with a very specific plan of what we think the community needs. For example, I'll use Shore Acres Boulevard. Up into where that traffic island is, basically, west of that belongs to TxDOT. Where the asphalt stops. That's TxDOT right now. TxDOT has for years pushed us off as far as fixing the flooding problem. It's their right of way, it's their road. The only way we're gonna get muscle with that is if we work with, for instance, Commissioner Mormon, because they also agreed that they were gonna upgrade all the rest of Shore Acres that needed upgrading, because that's a county road, not our road, it's a county road. Again, leveraging with the county against, I'd say against, but to get TxDOT to fulfill their obligations so that we don't have that flooding that occurs down there. Now, you may say, well, it only affects the folks down there. Well, that's not the point. You can say that about everything, about the ditches where you live, this, you gotta look at it from a larger perspective, and you have to look at it on moving right along. That's not all that can be done at once, but we do have to look at how do we get the funding for it, and like I said, largely for this community to move forward, we're gonna have to get funding from other people who partner. It's not a sin. It's in fact getting our taxes
Okay,
back.
I'm gonna say something real quick, it's getting late. So, I know Mr. Stanton and Diane, all of Mr. Gross have questions and what I'm, and Gary, so what I'm kind of recommending is just wrap it up. It's getting late with dinner, and that way, just
I
answer.
have one thing to say.
No, don't tell me who the Texans drafted, because I'm recruiting that.
Yeah.
DVR.
One thing going along with that is that we're not gonna solve any problems in here today, but I would like to know the qualifications of each person, because the people on council are going to be the ones who have to deal with these things. So, number 7, candidate qualifications, in terms of what makes you, each one of you, qualified to do the job we need you to do on council.
You wanna start this there? Okay.
Are we gonna have questions with the supervisor?
Professionally, I spent several years as a budget analyst with one large state agency in California. I've been an environmental manager for most of my professional life, both in government and in the private sector. I worked for 2 big concrete oil companies, essentially being a professional consultant with one of them through the entire organization, their upstream operations, their midstream, and downstream operations. And most recently, I worked at a large refining facility, responsible for environmental consulting, environmental management there, and management in general. So the experience I have with being a budget analyst at least gives me the ability to look at what it is we're trying to do, to look at what's either being proposed or what should be proposed and what the alternatives are for that, and where it fits in within essentially our revenue capabilities and what our expenditures are going to be for these things. So I take that professional experience, I take my interest here. I'm not going anywhere. Where I'm living, I'm not retiring to someplace else. I'm retired here. So the point is, I'm not going to take the benefit I get from living here, and there are a great many benefits, and walk away from them. Basically, my commitment is, I want to get this community on its feet. I want to keep our city professionally managed. It can't be done the way it was in the past, where we did not have professional, competent management. I want to make sure that we keep running on a fairly frugal basis, so that we're not chasing revenue just for the sake of chasing revenue, just to get things done. But I'm also mindful that, as Clint Eastwood said, a man needs to know his limitations. And we have to recognize our limitations so we can work from them, not be bound back by them.
Okay. Back when I worked for the Code of Compliance and IBM, my budget that I had to manage was on a monthly basis, the size of the city's community budgets. When I would create budgets at the beginning of the year, I had to justify those budgets in terms of what our mission is for my group, in terms of justifying every single little expense. And it has to be well documented, and weekly. I used to have weekly and sometimes, every 2 weeks, meetings with management about where I'm at on my budget, especially when I was running a few at the law center. And give accurate forecasts and so forth for financial standpoint. I have a business. I manage way larger budgets than this. But I'm not really running on my platform. I know how to do a budget. I think there's probably a lot of people who know how to do that. I'm running on it as local government. And what I see the biggest problem for this city is that we are not transparent. And that comes out real clear with the questions you're asking. And a citizen like you, I don't know because it's not there.
You're not on the city council right now?
No.
Neither am I.
You're the only one that's here that you
Those two.
and
Going to it or right. So I don't know. But we should have that information. The other thing that is very big on in terms of local government is the Texas Comptroller has what they call an award circle of transparency, financial transparency. That's easy to get to. So you go to your website and you can go down and it tells you within 10 seconds you can see the latest budget on a monthly basis. You can see the check register. That gets a little funny. For example, the city of Sealy, Texas, where check register, they put in the description of a little piece of carbon cloth, a 2-liter bottle of Coke, a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. Now, we don't need it down to that level, but you get to see where the city's money is spent and how it's being spent. The other thing, which is very big, and I'm going to be accessible. You'll notice that my handout here that I wanted to do that, my name is my name, my email address, my phone number. One of the criteria for the Gold Award is that all council members, via the website, should have their contact information. And this goes back to, being fair to all the citizens. If you're a new resident here, how do you contact your alderman? There's only 2 people on council that even have a click on our website to their email address. I don't, that's not fair. That's wrong. We should have access to our council members. I'll be there, open in that manner, and I will get us towards that goal reward. One of the first things that you give me another quick example. Yes, our assets are growing. Back to the city council meeting, Mr. Stahl gave a really nice chart that showed everything. But for citizens to find it, you've got to A, know that it happened. B, you've got to go to the agenda and go about 10 pages down. Instead, what do we have on our city website? We have, April is Fair Housing Month from 2013. We should have, hey, our assets are growing, and put that. That's what local government's about. You get the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. It's there for every citizen to see. Then we can debate the real issues. But what happens is because we don't have the information, we start getting misinformation. And that's not good. And those are
So
some of
would
the
you
things
take that on as a pet project, the website? If you were
Yeah,
elected?
if I were on council, absolutely, that would be one of the things, because that's the first thing that people see.
What
We
about
want
if you weren't
people to
elected? If you weren't elected, would you volunteer to do that?
There's some, I've volunteered before,
He has.
and, you know, and I've written a lot of the code. For example, I wrote, the water bill, by the way, was code that I wrote. And I felt that, and some people may not have liked it, but let me tell you about that water bill.
Whoa, let's
Be able to pay out lines.
We need to go to the other, I'm sorry.
We gotta go home.
We have to go home.
Moving right along.
It's will take 10 more seconds, all right? The water bill, for example, where we reduced the rate for under 2,000, what was supposed to happen is that we should have, by charging people extra for that extra 1,000 gallons, we should have increased it by 5%. What wound up happening is we didn't increase our water revenues at all. You know why? What happened is we discovered that the city was wasting 25% of our water, somewhere in that neighborhood. So all we really needed to do was not raise our rates by 5% like the council was talking about doing. We just need to make it more efficient. We need to fix those water rates as soon as possible. Because that's our tax dollars that's going down the drain. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we were okay. Again, I'm Kyle B. Rhodes. I worked in the music industry for a big chunk of my professional career in promotions and marketing. I worked for independent labels here in Houston and in Austin, including Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings. I had computers with Waylon Jennings once. I also worked for Whole Food Market for about a decade. And that's an all-natural and organic grocer out of Austin. Highest standards, I would say, in the world. Which brings my areas of expertise, I guess as a lot of folks are, is financial and business operations, forecasting. I think decidedly we're all proficient in that area in at least some capacity. Secondly, in standards, maintaining high standards and quality and service. I did adopt my philosophy, a lot of my philosophy from Whole Foods Market Leadership, which is a culture of empowerment. And also it encourages individuals to help create solutions for the issues that they're facing. I think that philosophy would help me to communicate with some of our residents and citizens. Again, and just I guess just a bullet point, my platform, I guess if I had to say what I would want to accomplish, would be that. I mean, would be transparency, to make sure that our residents are aware of what's going on and involved in that decision-making process, as well as what our community needs, what our town needs in order to get us going back in the right direction, coming off of this hype and the devastation we saw. Ultimately, to get these lots turned into better houses, to invite residents to come. Also, lastly, would be to create, to kind of see in the future worst case scenario if for instance we were to be facing another hurricane, another storm, would be to put an action plan in place, see exactly where we are so far as what's available. And I'm sure that Nancy has had a lot of experiences with that as well. Just real quick, the reason why I touch on that is I've dealt with FEMA. Like I said, I was an evacuee from Hurricane Katrina. They just raised our premium 36% while diminishing the value of our house as well as our content about $60,000, respectively, with no explanation or anything. We're constantly in battle with those guys. I think that they do it deliberately to confuse people, in all honesty. Just from my experience. And that would be one thing that I would want to overlook and address again, to build those relationships and to make sure that we have a sound relationship with those guys and a plan if anything were to happen.